First of all, thank you for doing this. It's always a
No, no,
pleasure.
no, my pleasure.
Love, love talking about the shows that bring so much joy to people, including myself.
Great.
And before we get into slow horses, I want to ask you uh, first, what inspired you to get into acting?
Um, my younger brother wanted to become a ballet dancer from quite a young age, and so I sort of tried to do that with him, and wasn't very good. So I was encouraged to narrate the ballet shows rather than dance in them, and that's where I sort of fell in love with being on stage. And so it comes from being on stage, really. And I just can't really remember a time where I didn't want to do it. So I was very lucky and I was encouraged from all angles, really, from parents, school, and stuff. So I was very lucky. But yeah, I don't remember not wanting to do it. Yeah.
That's great. And if your brother didn't push you, with the ballet, would do you think this would have happened?
I, I probably it probably would have happened. Yeah, I would have ended up on some kind of stage. I went to a high school that had a great music department and did great summer shows. So I probably would have ended up doing it anyway. Yeah, I just as soon as I sort of got a taste for the stage, there was no sort of turning back really. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. And what was your original draw to the series? Were you a fan of like, spy dramas, MI5, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, everybody always is, and like that, particularly in the UK as well. That sort of tradition of the sort of dark alleyway and sort of trench coat kind of tropey kind of hat is always really seductive. But the main thing was the scripts. I'd never read the books. The scripts came, and it was their humor really that was just the biggest draw. I mean, it was so bizarre and so wonderful to think of what is essentially like a work based thriller
Mhm.
where everybody's a little bit bad at what they do was just sort of really delicious. And I think strangely, kind of, people can really sort of associate with that and having a dreadful boss as well. It was kind of like The Office meets Tinker Tailor. It's quite cool.
The Office with guns and betrayals.
Yes, yes, lots of
Yeah,
betrayals. Yeah.
yeah. I love the humor. I think that's what surprised me most. I wasn't familiar with the series. I just started watching based on the cast and how do you say no to Gary Oldman, and
Yeah.
it creeps up on you, and you're like, and then it gets like this. Once you realize there's going to be humor in it, then you find gaseous moments in the cars and things like that happen that really elevate it. But there's always this kind of like you said, the workplace element where you have that kind of jabbing at each other and riffing off each other. That's quite a pleasure.
Yeah, it is.
Was
Oh,
the
it's a pleasure.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go.
I was going to say it was the humor something that came natural to you.
Uh, yeah, I mean, most of the stuff I've done, when I do anything, I'm trying to find what would be the funny way of doing something, or what would be the way of undercutting a scene. Even, as far back as I can remember, even going to the cinema and watching a serious film, I would be constantly making quips to whoever was with, like whether it was my mom and dad or then girlfriends or friends or whatever. In
Mhm.
the most serious moment, I would try and find something funny to say. So it was a kind of match made in heaven, so to speak, that when you're sort of trying to save someone's life or trying to stop the world being blown up, I think it's an opportunity missed if you don't make a joke.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get that. I'm like that. I'm that person, always like
Yeah.
going to throw out a comment or nudge someone, and whisper. And
Yeah.
for some people they love it, and other people frown upon it. And in this
Yeah.
situation, I guess when you are trying to save the world,
Yeah.
it depends what company you're in.
I'm the kind of guy that I really, if I go to a funeral, I really want someone to just stand up and go, he's not dead. I just want I just want that to happen, and because I'm a firm believer in humor being the best medicine, you know, yeah.
Yeah,
Because if you don't
and
laugh, you will just cry.
yeah, exactly. It's everywhere too, and like you have to. If you can embrace that, if you can see that, it really, like you said. it takes the edge off even the most serious moments
Yeah,
and allows you to like get past that rough edge.
yeah.
So speaking of rough edges, River is kind of a punching bag and a punchline. Yet he keeps fighting. You know, where other people it would seem like you go, that's it, I'm done. I had this horrible failure, and everybody knows about it. Everybody talks about it consistently, to his face and behind his back. But what keeps him fighting? Where does that fight originate?
I think it's I think it's partly arrogance and self-belief that he just doesn't. It's This is a momentary blip, but it's a momentary blip that's now gone on for 5 seasons. So I think it's still that someone's going to go, oh, that was a mistake. What are you doing there? Get back. But I think the other half is sort of it now becoming out of spite to Jackson Lamb, to Gary's character, is that you can ride him as hard as you want, but I won't fail. I thought about this the other day, is that I wouldn't. I'm not completely adverse to the idea that River doesn't go home and cry, or stands in the shower in the morning and has a good cry. We don't see that, of course, but I think it's quite important to think that that could be a possibility, and that it's something that he just turns on when he gets to work. Maybe we should have that. Maybe we should have a scene where he's just crying. But see, that I find that funny. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the old funny showers crying scene.
That classic. Yeah. I think we could have that. I think a lot of people, again, more people would sort of people to associate with that, a morning cry. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I never thought of it that. You know, like you see the brave front and the kind of like like the arrogance pushing him forward, but at the end of the day, when he's done with all this and he's like, okay, time to hang up my cap and make dinner, does he just like break down and just wallow in it, or does he where does
There's
that
got
take him?
there's got to be give somewhere. Either he's a sort of alcoholic, he cries a lot,
Mhm.
or he, maybe he's sort of he's recreational and he's into like axe throwing or something like that. You know, but that's where the possibilities are endless with slow horses. Yeah.
Yeah, like a midnight fight club. It could be.
Yeah. But it's Warhammer. It's Warhammer or something. Yeah.
So he also obviously has some daddy issues. He never knew his dad. His mother also left him, and his grandfather, who he puts his faith in, is starting to slip. And in addition, you have this relationship between Lamb and River, which is very unique and extremely bumpy. I was wondering, does he see Lamb as kind of even if he doesn't know it, does he see him as kind of a surrogate father? Is that like how do you see the relationship between those two?
I don't feel that River has ever felt he needs a father. I don't think he's felt he ever needs anybody. Um, I think he admires his grandfather because he wants to emanate him, basically. Um, but I don't feel that he needs anybody because his mother dropped him very young as well. So he's been on his own. Um, I think with Lamb, I think it is firmly in that sort of employee and boss thing. I don't think he sees him as a father at all. But I think that if ever anything would break me and make me cry, it would be to see Lamb put his arm around River and really, get a brief moment. But that's the wonderful thing with slow horses, is that you take the cynicism we take it so far, where people are so individualistic and only looking out for themselves. They're all worrying about their career, that if there's a tiny fleeting moment of tenderness between two characters, it thumps you right in the thorax. So I think that's what's wonderful about the potential of their relationship. Yeah.
And what has it been like working with Gary? I mean, the relationship on and off screen.
It's brilliant. He did this wonderful thing very early on, where we did a small rehearsal at the beginning of the first season when everybody was terrified and not really knowing what we were going for or what the tone was. And we did this little bit of rehearsal, and then we had a break and we all went for a coffee. And Gary and I still believe he just did this on purpose, but that's also the mark of the man, that's how much of a perfectionist he is. He just sort of stood in the coffee queue, and he sort of went, "I don't know if I got that. I don't know if I'm getting this. I don't know if that worked." And we're all going, "What? Shut up," in our heads. But it was the best thing he could have done as well, because it instantly made all of us sort of calm down, because this legend was worrying whether or not he was any good. But that's the mark of a perfectionist. So it's wonderful to work with him. It really is, and the fun that him and I can have in particular, and just coming up with stupid things to try and make each other laugh. To be doing that at work with a guy of his caliber is still very pinch me. I still can't quite believe it.
It's got to be amazing. And as you're saying, you're the guy who makes all the quips. So does any of that make it to the screen?
What, us coming up with stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the other thing, other than the brilliant cast on this job that makes it so great, is Will, the writer. He's on set most of the time, and as it's developed, and as we've all gotten more comfortable in the characters, everybody's input starts to come up a bit. Not all writers like that, but Will loves it, because we know our characters really well. So we jump in lines and things and suggestions, and he's there, and it's so malleable and creative. It's fantastic. And we all know each other's characters very well as well. So we'd say things and then go, "Oh no, you wouldn't say that, would you? Oh no, Louisa wouldn't give a shit. Okay, forget that." It's wonderful. It's a family. It's like a family Christmas dinner every time we all shoot. That everybody sort of squabbles, and the characters squabble. So it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems it has that natural element to it, and that's why, like, people say the improv sometimes, like, okay, a line gets worked in, but there's this, this aspect of it that just feels like you said that, like family, and there's where the barriers are down. There's no guests at the table; it's just the family, and we can all, like, all the memories from, like, back to your younger age up
Yeah,
until
yeah.
now come out, and it's like, let's go. Here we are.
Yeah, that's spot on. That's exactly what it's like. It's like there's no, but yeah, it's like if you invited a guest around, everybody would change and be polite. Yeah, yeah, so true. Yeah,
Yeah, using forks and knives and all that stuff.
yeah. When they're together, they just eat with their fingers. Yeah, yeah, that's what it's
So
like.
this season, we saw the death of Rivers Foyle when Spider dies. Was that a shocker? Did you know that was coming?
It was a shock. I did find that a shock, to be honest with you, and also a shame, because I love Freddie Fox, and anytime him and I got to do scenes, it was wonderful. And in this one in particular, there's a big scene between him and I that was just such a joy to watch Freddie just let go. Freddie just went, like, he left everything. He left everything on the canvas. He just went mad, and it was just wonderful to watch. So I'm still not quite over him not being there. I don't quite believe that he's dead. I hope he comes back. Yeah.
Yeah, people have said that online. I was like, you know what? When you see his body, I didn't want to believe it, but when you see his lifeless eyes on the ground there on the street, that's gonna be a tough one to say. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
he's alive, but
You never know.
medical miracles.
They might do a flashback to when
Yeah,
River and Spider were sort of coming up through the ranks, chatting at vending machines. Yeah, I hope they do
I
that.
could see that. He's kind of, your evil twin. He's
Yes, he
like,
really is.
and it's amazing to watch you two together. And again, the how natural it seems. And you're like, oh, this is
Yeah,
the guy you just can't get rid of. And every time that you think you get a small win, it's like, oh, guess what? He's a jerk again. I
yeah,
was going to use a better word, but
yeah, he will. He'll always worm his way out. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
so one of my favorite scenes of the season had River being a good friend to Louisa, and who's still dealing with Finn's death. And he tries to help her, and she throws back all these insecurities that he has at him. He's all the, his, she digs deep and digs quick, uh, but he turns around and hugs her. What does that say about River?
I think that scene in particular was wonderful to do, mainly because of Rods, because of the actor that plays Louisa. She's so easy to act with, and her and I really get along. And and we have very similar sort of tastes and feelings about the characters. Um, and it was me that suggested that hug at the end because it kind of felt where he was when in a sort of panicked position of not really knowing if he's helping, thinking he went into it with sort of noble causes, noble intentions, um, and seemed to make a mess of it. But that's because she's sort of twice as smart as him emotionally as well. So it was a sort of panic move to just hug her. And like we've all sort of, maybe we haven't, but I've been in those situations where you think you're helping, but you're really not helping. And that was a very real thing, and we were very keen on that being the theme of the conversation. Was it being well intentioned but poorly executed, essentially? Um, no, I love that scene, and it's one of the few scenes I've actually watched back, and it's really wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like sometimes you just have to be quiet, and because like
yeah,
you said, you're only digging a hole deeper. You're only irritating the wound. And
yeah,
that hug was like, man, that just felt so normal. And her reaction to it, that kind of like awkwardness, where it's like,
yeah.
I didn't expect this, and I don't want to say like it, but it it was the healing moment, or some kind of healing that she needed.
Yes. That the character of Louisa, the way that it's been developing is really, I love what she is to River. She's almost like a big sister, that he's never had. He, doesn't have any siblings. So I love the way that they're taking them. Yeah.
And the grenade scene, it leaves just the big cliffhanger, but quite very impactful, like to watch, and amazingly shot. What did that scene entail? Because it looks pretty legit that you're getting tossed around.
It was quite terrifying with how well they rigged that up, because it literally was a whole entire bookcase completely, completely, completely flat against it, with loads and loads and loads of different little charges going off, and the resetting that it took in the paper was kind of crazy. But it's all over in about 1.5 seconds. I actually had my dog there that day. I'll always remember that. I had to bring my dog to set, um, and so it was bizarre for her, I think, to sit there and watch her owner just sort of being blown up again and again. Yeah, yeah. No, I forgot about that one. That is crazy.
Did it get you beat up a little bit? Is that like it?
No, they really not at all. The only
Oh,
thing the only thing that we were worried about at one point was, for safety as well, because I think he's holding a handgun at that point.
I think so. Yeah.
But we have to use rubbers, and we were worried that in slow motion that the gun would be floppy. No, it did. If every safety precaution is taken, no, it was so safe. It didn't look like it would be, to literally just be blown sideways through a bookshelf, but it was remarkable. They're so good.
It's really impressive how it looks on screen. Um, so at the end of this season, you're in this conversation with your grandfather or River's grandfather, and he says, maybe I see more of the picture now. And so as we go from episode one, season one to now, what is River's new clarity on MI5?
Yeah, it's a good. Yeah, whether or not he still has faith. It's always been difficult with River, is that for me, I've always wrestled with how much he does what he does through trying to prove himself to his grandfather and to those around him, and then how much he actually cares about keeping everybody safe. Um, and it's a very interesting thing. I've done a few things, military based parts as well, and whenever I've spoken to real soldiers, for example, it's amazing how they have that same thing, as how little it is sometimes for king and country, so to speak, and it's more for them and their friends that they fight. Or and then we met someone from MI6, not MI5, when we first started this, and he talked about the same thing, about a lot of them in the intelligence services. It's in particular, they just enjoy being the smartest people in the room all the time. They enjoy the specialness of walking around in amongst us mere mortals, knowing that they know things that none of us will ever know, or they've been in rooms and they know secrets. So I do think that for me with River, I've been playing both of those. I've been trying to play that he loves the coolness of it being really secretive, but he's being made to do such terrible jobs. But also, I think he does care that bad guys are caught and bad guys are put behind bars. So at the end of this one in particular, I think he does begin to question that. Like, who is it really for? Is it all sort of are they actually just sort of trying to prove one another against one another? Is his grandfather trying to do one over on Jackson Lamb? And I think that will begin to become quite I think a bigger question for him there.
Yeah, it's nice to have the season end with the preview of the next season. So we're not like thinking, okay, this is 6 to 8, 10 months, away before they even announce their shooting date. No, it looks like you have a lot of it ready to roll. So
Yeah, they
excited
do
to
that
watch
every
that too.
season. It's we all watch it and go, oh God, right, that's what it's going to look like. Yeah, it's great. It's really great. It's the speed with which they do this is amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. So may close out with an easy one. 3 words to describe River.
3 separate words.
It
Three
can be
set.
any
Yeah.
way you want. It can be, and you can use
Oh God.
hyphens too. People often use their hyphens.
uh, uh, insecure for sure. Brave. Uh, and uh, tall. I can't think of another one. I can't think of
Hey,
another. I do feel very tall. I feel very tall in this show.
well, how do you compare to the rest of the cast? I
I
don't
feel
notice
quite
it that much.
tall. Well, I do feel quite tall. Because I'm a big fan of the sort of the comedy in different in height variations and stuff. I've been obsessed with that since I watched like BBC comedies in the 70s and 80s, and that sort of that's why I love when he gets to do scenes with Lamb. There's a sort of big sort of dopey brother feeling of being a bit taller than Lamb, and I love the idea of the two of them in the frame as sort of the misfits. But yeah, he doesn't get to hang out with Lamb enough. So I hope we see more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully more. All right. Well, thank you for your time. Congrats on the season and the series, and I look forward to watching more of it.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.